Welcome to Supercharge This. I'm Simon Knapp, and today you're joining me on a 1,500 mile road trip where we go from Nashville to Detroit, Chicago, the Rivian factory in Normal, Illinois, and then back home to Nashville. Different video trying out the Tesla Model Y to see if it really is ready for these longer road trips and the way Americans tend to drive their cars long distance. I have my concerns about full self-driving in its current state and whether it's actually worth the purchase price, so I'm going to be testing that today and really seeing if we should be buying the Model Y for our family and whether it works for you too. Currently I'm here at Nashville International Airport. We're at 85% state of charge. I think that's enough to get to Louisville, and we are going to Detroit. Let's see what routing it gives us. Like I said, we're currently in Nashville. 85% state of charge in this grey Model Y, and yeah, we're going to go to Louisville, get there with 11%, we'll have to see about that. Florence, Kentucky, and then Lima, Ohio. I've never been to Kentucky or Ohio, so this is going to be an interesting trip. 2 hours 38 minutes to that first Louisville charger. Well, yeah, I've never done a road trip in a Tesla, I've never done a road trip in an electric vehicle, so I'm curious already about range anxiety. Arriving with 11% seems a little bit light, but yeah, I guess the only way to find out is to try it. Let's get going. So we just joined the highway, and full self-drive has taken over. A little bit wonky joining the highway. I think I may have turned it on too early. We'll see. Occasionally, I'm not sure if it's going to take an exit or whether it's going to keep going when we're meant to be staying on the highway. It looks like there are moments where you get the impression that full self-driving might want to take the exit, but actually stays on the highway. We're doing 60 in a 55. Because of the calibration errors in the speedometers, and right now it shows that we can be arriving with 14%, slightly more than it said when we first started, but it's not a great deal. We're going to try and drive as close to the optimum conditions as possible. We're going to stay around the speed limit. See a lot of road trips in Teslas where people drive at 80, 85 miles an hour and then wonder why the range estimations are inaccurate. So we're going to stay around the speed limit. Around here, the speed of traffic is about 60 anyway, so it's no big deal. And yeah, we'll see what we end up with when we get to Louisville. If we get to Louisville, you just never know. A couple of things. This is a vehicle that I've hired from Turo. Wonderful hosts here in Nashville. It's a beautiful 2021 Model Y in midnight metallic grey, I think they call it. Potholes. Mentioning potholes, that's one thing that's come out of this Turo rental. When the car was delivered, there's actually a little bit of sidewall damage in the two rear tyres right next to some curb rash, and somebody has parked this really rather badly. I think if you are going to get either the Model 3 or the Model Y, you're going to need some sort of rim guards, because the amount of damage you see on the tyres, on the wheel rims, is kind of crazy. I don't know if the tyres just aren't bulging out enough to protect the rims or what, but it's either that or Tesla drivers can't park for shit. Quick update on Autopilot. Full self-driving seems to be doing a better job now that we have fewer intersections. But man, the roads in Tennessee suck. There are some big potholes. I've had 3 or 4 disengagements so far. Changed its mind, was going to do a lane change, decided against it. Try again. 3 or 4 disengagements so far, purely down to some massive potholes. Obviously full self-driving doesn't see those, and makes, or even if it does see them, it makes no attempt to avoid them. So full self-driving, you definitely have to pay attention. And I want to talk about that later. I want to talk about the actual meaning of autopilot and how different it is to how the media perceives it. We'll do that in a few months. One thing I've just realized is how quiet this car is. I'm recording on the Insta360 One RS. I'm doing a time lapse, and it's just occurred to me that that's knocked my iPhone off of the car infotainment. So I've been listening to it coming out of the iPhone speaker at about 60-70% volume without any issues. We're doing 65 miles an hour through construction right now, and there's no issues at all hearing the volume of the phone. I'm used to driving a VW Atlas or a Mini Clubman, and both of those are just louder. The Atlas is not subtle. It has one of those big American style V6, 3.6 litre V6 I think it is, where the accelerator really is just a noise pedal, and you generate enough noise to slowly start going faster. And the Mini Clubman is a fun car to drive, but mostly because they pump in engine noise into the cabin. Obviously that doesn't happen in a Tesla. You have a slight whine as you hear one drive past, but there's really
really not a lot of noise in here. I'm used to, if ever I've recorded a video in a car, I've had to yell. I've always felt like I've needed to yell. Now, I can't hear the audio that's being recorded, but I'm hoping it's usable. It just seems very quiet, and I can see how on a long journey, the lack of that engine noise and that constant hum of the engine would make the overall drive less fatiguing. Driving through construction right now, full self-driving's had no issues whatsoever. We're drafting an 18-wheeler or a truck right now. It means we're now showing estimated arrival at 22%, which if anything is slightly too much. You want to arrive at a supercharger around or just below 20% in order to get the high charge curve. We're going through construction, so there's no benefit to going faster here because we might end up throwing a rock at someone and hurting a construction worker. Obviously don't want to do that. So we'll just sit here and we'll see. We're going to continue to follow the Tesla navigation. Once we arrive in Louisville, I'll pull up a better route planner and see the differences that they suggest. I think they have one more stop on our route. That would mean we could just charge for 10 minutes in Louisville. And I have a feeling the Tesla routing is going to have us charge for about 25 to 30 minutes. But, you know, let's keep going, keep trucking, and I'll let you know when we get to Louisville. So we're driving through Kentucky right now, and we're on the 65 North. I saw something on the map that's called Kentucky Stonehenge. Couldn't pass it up, gotta go take a look. What on earth is Kentucky Stonehenge? Okay, so just left the 65 northbound to experience everything that Kentucky Stonehenge has to offer. I'll show you that in a second. Really interesting with Autopilot full self-driving. As you take the off-ramp, take the exit, the screen actually shows that you have 500 and then 300 feet until Autopilot will disconnect and hand over control. And at the end of that distance, you just get the doo-doo sound as Autopilot disconnects and hands you control. As someone who has worked with aviation autopilots and in a safety world, I'm kind of perplexed that you don't get any earlier audio warning that you're about to have to take over manual control. I can see it being very easy for you to get to the 180-degree turn of the off-ramp, still going very fast and, you know, potentially not taking over the steering. It seems like an oversight. It seems like something you have to know in advance. Obviously, I was paying attention enough to see that the screen was warning me. But if you are just an average consumer, not someone that follows Tesla news and all the Tesla vehicles and specs, I can genuinely see how you could make the mistake of getting to the end of that exit, the handover on the exit, and not knowing that you were back in control yet. It seems mildly alarming. But let me show you the star of the show here. Let me show you Kentucky Stonehenge. So, as you can see, there's nothing come behind us. This is Kentucky Stonehenge, just like the real thing, you know, back in the UK. Wonderful. And it's, you know, in a nice little neighborhood here. Let's talk about pricing. This is the 2021 Tesla Model Y long range, which when it was sold in Q1 of 2021 was $53,000. Now it's $63,000. This has the $2,000 wheel upgrade on it, which I don't agree with buying, but you know, to each their own. The frustrating thing about the price increases is that it comes down to global and like macroeconomics. The fact that lithium has gone up to a crazy amount, the fact that nickel has spiked with the war between Ukraine and Russia, and there's nothing new on this car that is worth the extra $10,000. Yes, they've changed this piano black for a matte black, which is very nice. The wireless charger in this doesn't work, but I think that's just a defect rather than a new feature on the 22 models. Yes, you can now, if you get a Fremont model, which is the standard range at $60,000, you can get a parcel shelf that comes straight from the factory. Other than that, the 10 grand increase really is just down to the cost of Tesla going up, which it's a really frustrating time to be buying cars. Inflation is crazy right now. The latest announcement is that it's over 8%, but food and gas are over 15%. Nickel went up to $100,000 per ton. Lithium has gone from about $12,000, I think it's per ton, up to $78,000. This spike in minerals is really hurting the EV market. And it makes me wonder what has to happen in the world to make Teslas affordable to the masses. We know that Honda and GM are making a sub $30,000 range, and I can't see how Tesla can compete with that $30,000 price range unless they make something that is the size of an old Volkswagen Polo or the size of a Fiat 500 with a very small like city range. Maybe it has 180, 200 miles range. That's probably enough for most people that drive around the city. The downside is if you're selling a car to people who live in the cities, there are an awful lot of people who don't have anywhere to plug it in. So you really have to trade off the convenience of like longer range with the pricing that people want. I'm glad I'm not having to come up with the direction for the company, and I'm just going to sit here and report on it and enjoy the products. I don't think they have an easy task right now. Quick range update for you. We have 51 miles to run to the Louisville Supercharger in Kentucky. Battery is showing 35%. It's still showing 110 miles, which is obviously plenty. And it is predicting that we will arrive with 16% battery. This trip screen does seem to fluctuate. There were times where it was showing we'd arrive with 22%, and there were times now that we're showing that we're arriving with 16%. There's been no radical changes. Yes, we took a very small, maybe a 3-mile detour in order to go see the wonderful Kentucky Stonehenge, but not enough to knock 6% off the estimated arrival. We're still driving at 75 and a 70. We haven't gone higher than 75. It should be terrain aware, so the hills should be taken into account, but you can't rely exclusively on this trip screen. I'm really interested to see what we actually arrive with. 50 miles to run, 35% battery. We have plenty of juice. Well, let's see how accurate these numbers are when we arrive.
So plugged in at the supercharger here in Louisville, and as you can see, we're already up to 21%, charging at 516 miles per hour on a 150 kilowatt charger at 134 right now. And it says we need to charge here for about 45 minutes. And I think this is one of the problems with the Tesla navigation versus a better route planner. I think a better route planner had us with one more stop and meant we only needed about 12 to 15 minutes here. Okay, quick update on charging. Louisville is, it's not the best area to be in. There's not a lot here, frankly. Let's look at the charging state though. As you can see, we now have enough charge to continue our trip. We're charging really slowly now, but if we come down here and go to charging, it cost us $20 to get about 230 miles range. Now that's still a lot cheaper than filling up with gas. Our Atlas costs about $56 right now and gets about 300 miles of range, so it's still cheaper than gas, but not as cheap as I would have liked. As always, you know, things always cost more than you like. But let's close the door and get going. In Lima, Ohio. We were expecting to get here with 25% battery, but as you can see, we're arriving with, get that focused, 12%. The wind really picked up. That hurt our energy consumption quite a lot. You know, it dropped off towards the end there as we went round a 90-degree turn and the wind was across us and not in front of us. But, you know, definitely takes its toll. Another thing a better route planner does is it uses the current weather if you pay for their subscription, so I'm hoping that will be more accurate. You can actually see the trees blowing in the breeze there. We're going to be here for about 25 minutes, so let's get plugged in and then hopefully get on our way soon. So we're plugged in. There we go. 25 minutes remaining to continue our trip. The battery did start preconditioning about 10 miles to the south of Lima, so hopefully it's in a good spot. Plus it's 70 degrees outside. 100 watts. Still 420 miles an hour, that's not bad. So from here, we may overcharge slightly because this has us arriving at our hotel with 17%. The wind is, picked up, and also there's destination charging, but there's no guarantee you're going to get it. So what I might do is I might give us 25-30% battery, add another 5, just to make sure that should we not get the destination charger, we have enough for Sentry Mode to run overnight as we park in Detroit. So yeah, we're going to need to have a quick look to see if we can charge enough from here, or if we're going to need to stop again just to give the battery boost as we enter the city suburbs.
So I'm supercharging at the Hampton Inn in Lima, Ohio. I keep saying Colorado, but that's the completely wrong part of the country. Pop from the battery as it warms up. Ooh. As you can see here, the Hampton Inn charging session is actually $0 so far. So either that's an error and it's gonna spring up at some point, or it's a free destination charger. It's kind of nice. If you're ever in Lima and you need charge, this seems to be the place to go. Nice, nice station. There's about 8 or 10 supercharging units, and there's 3 of us here right now. It's very quiet. I'm actually really enjoying the supercharging. I've found on this longer road trip that you actually do need some time to get up and walk around and just stop looking at crazy drivers and potholes. So having 20 minutes downtime, I'm actually quite enjoying it. Now maybe if I was having to drive 600 miles a day every day of the week, it would be a pain in the ass, but as it stands, it's actually not too bad at all. I especially think if I had my 7-year-old and my wife with me, that these stops would be mandatory anyway, just to hit snacks and restrooms. So far my impression on day 1 of the road trip is that I think this is probably doable for most people. But again, there's still a long way to go on this road trip. 2 more days, 1,500 miles total. So let's get charged up. I'm gonna find something to eat. I haven't eaten all day. Okay, so we overcharged. We added a bit more charge than was necessary. We now have 248 miles of range, mostly because it was free and I needed a break. Right now, if we go direct... Ooh, come on, there we go. If we go direct to the hotel, we're going to get there with 30% charge. 31% charge. I'm not convinced that'll happen purely because of the wind that's picking up, but there is another supercharger in Toledo, which we could hit and get a nice charge before we go into the city. I'm probably inclined to do that. I really want to make sure that there's enough battery to run Sentry Mode, and then also be able to get to the Tesla Supercharger on the west side of Detroit after we do 1 or 2 things tomorrow. We have 2 hours, 138 miles to go. Let's keep trucking. Bottled it a little bit. Looking at the arrival charge for the hotel in Detroit, we're going to arrive there with 20% battery, which is only just enough to have Sentry Mode on. And I don't know if you need 20 to start Sentry Mode, or if you have to have at least 20% to keep Sentry Mode running. As a result, I'm going to stop here in Toledo and charge up so that we have closer to 50% upon arrival. That way I can be a bit more confident that Sentry Mode will run all night. Still learning the car. If you know that I'm completely messed up and wrong on Sentry Mode, please leave a message in the comments so I can learn for next time. I meant to say, the energy graph for this section, kind of wild. For the last 5 miles at least, I think it was doing real heavy preconditioning of the battery. We were driving at 60 miles an hour through construction, so to be hitting nearly 600 watt hours per mile is kind of bonkers. So right, took advantage of the grocery store here, and we're all done filling up. 88%, which is actually more than I thought. Charging, what did it cost us? $11. So far to drive from Nashville to Toledo, we're in for $31, which I think is pretty reasonable. See, I'm much happier at 63%. 63% arriving in Detroit, plenty of battery to maybe drive around a little bit, and then make sure we have enough for Sentry Mode to run overnight. Last stint for today, 51 minutes, 53 miles. Then I'm gonna get a burger or something awesome. So after a full day using full self-driving on the highway, I'm actually genuinely really impressed with it. It handles most of the driving really well, like as well as I would have done. Occasionally it makes some questionable decisions, especially with regards to changing lanes. Like, I planned to turn off the confirm lane change function when I hit Louisville. I didn't trust it enough to turn it off yet. Occasionally it will look to change lanes, and if you look in the camera and look over your shoulder, you'll see that the gap it's trying to get into really isn't a gap. And although I know if I confirm the lane change, it will sit and wait to change lanes until there is actually a gap, I don't want the indicator to be on when I know the car can't fit in the gap, just out of courtesy for the other drivers around me. I'm hoping tomorrow, going from Detroit to Normal, Illinois to the Rivian factory, that there will be less traffic going that way, and I can turn off that confirmation. Right, for now I can't release that control. Almost no instances of phantom braking. I think we had 2 very minor instances. Would have been a non-event, nowhere near as bad as our Mini Clubman would have been. One problem I did notice is that occasionally when you have lanes that kind of blend in and out, whereby a road will suddenly fork but very subtly, so that the other lane then runs parallel to the main lane but separated by a barrier. Full self-driving doesn't seem to know which side of the fork it's going to take until kind of late in the game. And I appreciate that the distance that the cameras can see is nowhere near as far as we can see as humans. And I understand that there's a limitation there, but I really think they have to find a way to optimize that, because there are some moments where you're like, ooh, are we going to end up on the other interstate here, or are we going to just plow into the barrier? I mean, it never gets close to actually doing it. It's just the decision making seems later than I perhaps would like. Having flown commercial aircraft for over 10 years, Autopilot is the correct name. The Autopilot system is fantastic at making your day easier, but the 737 Autopilot and the Airbus 320 and 330 Autopilots all try to kill you in slightly different ways in different circumstances. The 737 would try and reach its top of descent point, and then it would just drop the nose and you could see it accelerating into an overspeed situation. And the Airbus 320 has issues where it's caused genuine accidents through its automation systems. So I understand why people complain about full self-driving as terminology, because I don't think we're anywhere near that just yet, not in the current consumer builds. But the Autopilot really is as good as an Autopilot can probably be with what we have. It is a tool to be used. You have to use it knowing its limitations and areas where it is weak. And I think that's really important. We can't just gloss over and say it's an Autopilot, therefore it is effectively a second perfect driver, because it's not that. Anyway, that's why Autopilot ran over. It always has annoyed me when people think Autopilot is perfect in aircraft, because it's not. It's better than us, but it will try and kill you sometimes. So tomorrow, the reason I've driven to Detroit, they haven't actually revealed it, I don't think, on the road trip series, is we're going to the old Ford Model T factory tomorrow. I want to go see where American automaking kind of began, where the mass production started here in the US, and really compare it by driving to Normal, Illinois, compare it to where it is now, what the future holds for American automakers, whether the big 3 will ever really own the electric vehicle niche, or if Tesla and Rivian and Lucid will actually become the next big 3. Some very interesting things going on in the electric vehicle market. That's why I've started this channel, because I find it so fascinating. And yeah, we'll go see the old Piquette. I think it's Piquette, Ford Piquette Avenue. I don't know. I'll find out tomorrow. The old Model T factory, and then the one that they moved to several months later. From there, we'll go on to the Rivian factory, and it's a bit of a tour, continue the test drive of full self-driving. And like I say, if I feel brave enough, we'll turn off the confirmation for lane changes and let it do its own thing. And if this video never gets published, it's because Autopilot killed me. But I think that's going to be the end of the first part of the road trip series. It's been a great day, 570 miles down, another 1,000 miles to go to get around the other 2 sides of this triangle, and check back in for the following segments. They'll be linked beneath. That's it for this Supercharged update. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. A like would be appreciated, and I'd love to engage with you in the comments, so leave me a note and I'll get back to you. But for now, I'll see you in the next one.